Hi everyone. Luck is a fickle thing, but let's agree, it's pretty nice. Some people miraculously manage to avoid serious injuries, and others are lucky enough to have just maybe a long potato chip. In today's video, we've prepared for you the stories of people who can be called real minions of fortune. Let's get it on. Frane Selak. Croatian music teacher Frane Selak may well be considered the happiest person in the world. Well, at least the luckiest. He managed to survive in terrible disasters and even to win the lottery once. As Selak himself says, it all began in 1962, when the train on which he was traveling got off the rails and fell into an icy river. The man managed to swim ashore on his own. In 1963, he fell out of the plane crashing and fell straight into a haystack. In 1966, another thing happened. This time the bus fell into the river in which Selak was traveling, and this time the lucky man again managed to get out on the shore by himself. In 1970, his car suddenly caught fire while driving, and he managed to get out just seconds before the gas tank exploded. In 1995, on one of the streets of Zagreb, he was accidentally knocked down by a bus, without serious consequences obviously. In the end, in 1996, a UN truck appeared out of nowhere in the middle of a mountain road, right in front of Selak's car, and the man miraculously didn't fall off the cliff, having managed to jump out of the car at the last moment and hang on to a tree.
Teach me.
Oh, and in June 2002, he also won about $800,000 in the lottery. What, sounds incredible? Well yes, this cheerful grandfather was even filmed in a commercial. By the way, today Frane Selak is 89 years old, and it seems that he's still got it. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. Someone can say that Tsutomu can hardly be called a lucky man. To save himself from one disaster, the man actually fell into another. But he should look at his history from a different angle, because this is the man who survived 2 atomic bombings. On August 6, 1945, Tsutomu, who worked as an engineer at the Mitsubishi Corporation, was on a business trip in the city of Hiroshima and was 3 kilometers from the epicenter of the nuclear explosion. Despite severe burns, the man remained alive, and the next day he went home to Nagasaki. There, he received medical help and even decided to go to work, but the bombing happened again. The projectile dropped on Nagasaki was more powerful than the previous one, and the epicenter was again 3 kilometers from Tsutomu. This time, there were many obstacles on the way of the shockwave, so the man almost didn't suffer, but received a large dose of radiation. Although luck still did not leave Tsutomu after that. He lived up to the age of 93, complaining only of the pain in his left ear. Anders Hellstrup. You know, there are events that are really hard to believe. For example, well, what is the probability that a skydiver will fly into, no, not a bird, but a meteorite? Norwegian amateur paratrooper Anders Hellstrup nearly got into such an air traffic accident and filmed everything that happened on the camera. The heavenly body flew about a couple of meters from Anders, and that was very fortunate. And if you notice that the meteorite on the video looks a bit different from all the other meteorites, it's because an asteroid that reaches a height of 10 to 20 kilometers loses its initial velocity and begins to fall like the most common stone. But even in such a state, cosmic cobblestones may well be harmful, so we can say that Anders was indeed lucky. Virginia Fike. Although previous stories can be considered truly amazing, hardly anyone will want to experience such luck by themselves. But Virginia Fike from the American city of Berryville is quite enviable. Once upon a time, the woman bought 2 Powerball lottery tickets in the most ordinary truck parking lot. Not because she felt particularly lucky that day or something like this. Virginia just loved the lottery. But it seems they decided to return her love. Both tickets were winning, and each of them brought $1 million to the stunned woman. And this is provided that the probability of winning as such a sum is approximately 1 to 5 million. Unknown cyclist. In order to experience luck, you don't necessarily need to win the lottery or survive a nuclear catastrophe. Sometimes it's enough to ride a bike on a mountain plateau somewhere in Utah and accidentally fall off it, almost falling off the cliff. Straight onto the stones. It'd be a very sad and slightly ridiculous story, but the guy fortunately ended up safe and sound, and the bike, by the way, too. Bill Morgan. The real glory and awareness of their own luck came to Bill Morgan, the usual truck driver, in a rather strange way. To begin with, he had to die. Well, okay, not exactly. After a car accident and a heart attack, Morgan was in critical condition and even had a heart failure longer than 14 minutes. Miraculously, the doctors still managed to bring him back to life, but Bill was still in a coma. The doctors already advised his family to switch off his life support, but they refused, and Morgan really soon came back to his senses. Surprisingly, he didn't get any brain damage and overall felt good. Great luck, but in general it's not so unusual, you may think. However, this isn't the end of Bill's story. A year later, he, just for the fun of it, bought a ticket for an instant lottery, and he won a car worth $17,000. The story of the lottery prize winner interested local television, and they offered Morgan to repeat the on-camera ticket check to get a beautiful picture. Of course, this time the driver has scraped off a new ticket, but imagine how surprised Bill was when it became clear that this ticket was also a winning one. Moreover, the man got a jackpot to the amount of $170,000. Mary Grams. When Canadian woman Mary Grams in 2004 accidentally lost her engagement ring while working in the garden, she, of course, was very upset. But no matter how much she tried to find the missing jewelry, she couldn't. In the end, Mary just bought a new one, so as to not upset her husband, and forgot about this story. Perhaps it would have stayed like this until today if it weren't for her luck. Somehow, a regular garden carrot grew through the lost ring, which Mary's daughter-in-law pulled out of the ground. The girl immediately noticed that the vegetable looked strange, and only after washing it from the mud realized what had changed the shape of the carrot: the wedding ring. After 13 years, the favorite jewelry returned to Mary Grams, and the woman, by the way, is going to wear it again because the ring still fits perfectly. Harrison O'Keefe. In May of this year, a tugboat with a crew of 12 people transporting an oil tanker in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Nigeria overturned because of strong waves and sank. When the ship went underwater, the ship's cook, Harrison O'Keefe, managed to get to the engine compartment, where he found a small amount of air, the so-called air pocket. The cook was lucky enough to find a can of Coca-Cola and a life jacket with 2 small flashlights, but the cavity found wasn't too big, and the air could quickly end. The flashlights were quickly exhausted, the surroundings were dark and cold, and gradually Harrison began to feel panic. He spent about 60 hours in the water when a search team unexpectedly stumbled onto the air pocket. The divers lifted the man to the surface, and it turned out that he was the only survivor on the ship. What was it? Incredible luck or the help of some higher forces? Anyway, now Harrison works as a cook on the beach and refuses even to approach the water. Melvin Roberts. They say that lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. Well, try to prove it to Melvin Roberts from Carolina, who survived lightning strikes 12 times. In 2011, Melvin hit the headlines due to the fact that he was struck by lightning 6 times. In 2015, he claimed that during this period he was struck 5 more times, and in 2016, the number reached a dozen. Once, lightning struck the man when he was sitting on the porch, and twice while working on a lawnmower. His wife is sure that during a thunderstorm she should stay away from Melvin as far away as possible in order to get help if something happens. Indeed, it seems that Roberts literally attracts lightning. His body's covered with scars left from the heavenly discharges, and they didn't pass without a trace. Roberts says he suffers from headaches and memory loss. However, he's still alive after 12 lightning strikes. Amazing. Vesna Vulovic. From what height do you think a person can fall and survive? Probably a few floors? Vesna Vulovic proved that this is not so. She managed to survive, having fallen from a height of 10,160 meters. On January 26, 1972, the young flight attendant of the Yugoslav Airlines boarded the plane, where she was distributed by mistake. When the aircraft flew over Czechoslovakia, an explosion occurred unexpectedly in the luggage compartment, and only Vesna managed to survive, despite the fact that the height was critical, and the girl at the time worked in the passenger compartment and was not fastened. She almost didn't remember what happened, only a loud explosion, a bright light, and a strong cold. One of the locals found Vesna among the wrecks. She received several fractures and recovered within 16 months, but still, she was incredibly lucky. because it's simply impossible to survive such a catastrophe. And it's not just the height of the fall, but also the lack of oxygen. However, Vesna managed to survive, but this is not the only surprising part of her story. After Vesna finally got to her feet, she asked to go back to her work. The girl claimed that she was okay and ready to go back into the sky, although the airline didn't listen to her and eventually allocated an office position for her. They say Vesna was very upset.
Amazing gadgets, upcoming technologies, incredible inventions, and other cool stuff related to high tech on TechZone. Subscribe, you won't regret it. The link is on the screen and in the description.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks, and we'll be right back to you as fast as we can.